So in this video, I'm going to be doing a ranking of all 9 lands in Disneyland Resort, California. Emphasis on the Disneyland in California, and I mean Disneyland only, so also not including anything from Disney California Adventure. So yeah, Disneyland has finally just reopened up, and thanks to my visit to the Disneyland on reopening week, I was finally able to get my own footage to do this kind of video. I've always wanted to do it. So this is just based on my personal preference from least favorite to my favorite. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. Critter Country, formerly known as Bear Country, changed to Critter Country once they added Splash Mountain in 1989. Critter Country as a land is pretty harmless. It represents sort of like a woodland forest area pretty well, and it's got probably my favorite ride in all of Disneyland, Splash Mountain. I mean, I think that ride is just a great mix, an amazing mix of music, story, and thrills. But unfortunately, outside of Splash Mountain, there's really not a ton else to see or do in Critter Country. You got Pooh Corner, which has the Winnie the Pooh ride and a small little mini gift shop area, and then there's the Hungry Bear restaurant. And that's it. There's nothing else to see or do in Critter Country. It's the smallest land of all Disneyland. It's at the very corner of the park. And unfortunately right now, it's kind of like a lame duck land. Because with the Princess and the Frog retheming eventually taking over Splash Mountain, then Critter Country will essentially be reduced to just the Hungry Bear restaurant and the Winnie the Pooh ride. And that's really not a whole lot there or enough to warrant a whole land. But even right now, even with Splash Mountain as a land, just doesn't quite have the substance of other lands in Disneyland, which is why I currently think it's the weakest in Disneyland Resort. Frontierland, one of the OG lands that came with Disneyland's opening in 1955. Personally, I've never been crazy about the whole Western theming and aesthetic. I mean, I don't think it's badly done. It's personally just not something that really excites me all that much visually. But even if I did love the whole theming and aesthetic, a lot of the land outside the opening entryway and first few buildings is a lot of open space. A lot of open pathways and walkways to get to other lands. And yeah, there's Big Thunder Mountain also, which is a really well done thrill ride attraction a lot of people love to go to. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot of else to the actual land portion of Frontierland. What does help the land is the fact that the Rivers of America counts as part of Frontierland. So you got that, the Columbiana ship, and Tom Sawyer's Island to help give the land more areas to actually explore. But really nothing about Frontierland really excites me all that much. I mean, it does only have one ride after all. Personally, something that I've always thought has sort of like hurt Frontierland is the fact that it does not have any Disney characters or Disney movies to represent it like other lands in Disneyland. I mean, they do have some options. There's Home on the Range, but I don't think they'd ever want to use that movie. There's Woody and Jesse from Toy Story, or a couple of obscure Disney characters, Pecos Bill and Slewfoot Sue from Disney's Melody Time. Anything like that incorporated would help give the land more of a Disney feel for me personally. Adventureland, another OG land that came with Disneyland's opening in 1955. I love the idea of Adventureland, this whole sort of jungle safari atmosphere. And when you walk into Adventureland, they have the whole sort of atmosphere, the sound, the visuals, and aesthetic. It's done really well to capture that kind of environment. It's almost like a mini sort of like Disney's Animal Kingdom from Walt Disney World. But that's the problem. I said mini. I just wish the land was a lot bigger. I mean, before you know it, you're done with it and walking into New Orleans Square. The area itself isn't all that big. It's home to 2 attractions I don't really care for all that much: the Jungle Cruise and especially the Enchanted Tiki Room. Of course, the crown jewel of Adventureland is Indiana Jones Adventure. I mean, that's just a great all-around attraction. And really, if you include sort of the whole walkway and queue to go into Indiana Jones Adventure, that helps make Adventureland feel a little bit bigger and overall make the land more encompassing and well-rounded. Mickey's Toontown, which came in 1993 off of the success of Who Framed Roger Rabbit from 1988. Toontown often gets forgotten by people when they go into Disneyland because it's at the very end of the park, and these days it's most remembered for that epic beatdown that happened in 2019. But I still really enjoy Toontown every time I walk in. When you walk in, they capture the visuals, the sound, the atmosphere of a sort of a hyper cartoon world really well. You got Mickey's house, which is fun to explore, and all the buildings, just everything about Toontown looks fun. You got Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin, which is a really good dark ride that captures the spirit of the film really well. And pretty soon Toontown will have another ride, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, which will have some next gen ride tech that people will be lining up in Toontown to come see. Main Street, USA. Now, it's really hard to rank Main Street among the other lands in Disneyland because it's the only land that doesn't have a ride or an attraction. But still, the thing about Main Street USA is that it's just so goddamn classic, and it starts your day off at Disneyland so well. When you walk into the opening area and you see the photo opportunities with characters with Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and all them, then you go down the line in Main Street and you see the beautiful line of gift shops and restaurants laid out for you, and then you get into the hub area and you see the beautiful view of the castle and the other entryways to the other lands. And while there are no rides or attractions, the land Main Street USA is the perfect spot to get a view of the fireworks show in front of the castle. So for those reasons, that's why I would put Main Street among the upper tier of Disneyland lands. Tomorrowland. Now, Tomorrowland has changed a lot throughout the years when it comes to its look and attractions. Its current look does a good job of giving off those vibes of the future, and area-wise, it's among the bigger lands in all of Disneyland. When it comes to the attractions, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me personally. I mean, for every Space Mountain, there's a Finding Nemo submarine voyage, and then for every Star Tours, there's a Autotopia. But in terms of what the look and the aesthetics and the attractions mostly, it does a good job of accomplishing what it sets out to do. New Orleans Square. Now, New Orleans Square is just a great area. It's got two Disneyland classics in Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion, which are really enjoyable rides, long rides, and rides that still hold up even though they were made in the 1960s. Pretty soon there'll be another ride with the Princess and the Frog retheming of Splash Mountain. Food-wise, it's got among the best food you can get at Disneyland, with all the restaurants giving you New Orleans Square inspired food. And something that goes unnoticed about New Orleans Square is that if you stand in the center, you can just get a great view of 3 different lands, and that's nowhere else in Disneyland you can say that about. When you stand in the center, you can see Critter Country, you can see Frontierland, and Adventureland. So yeah, New Orleans Square is just a great area. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Now, when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge first opened in 2019, there's a bit of a mixed reaction from it. There was a whole lot of expectations, a whole lot of hype, a whole lot of build-up, and some of those mixed reactions were even from me in terms of my opinions of it. Now that the hype has sort of died down 2 years later and the land is in its sort of completed stage, I think most people can admit it's a really damn good land, what they pulled off with it. I mean, just the look, the aesthetics, the detail, just perfectly capture an old school Star Wars town, and it's beautiful what they did with it. And you can do anything that you would want to do in the Star Wars universe in this land when it comes to building a lightsaber, building your own droid, drinking blue milk, flying the Millennium Falcon, going to the cantina. It's just amazing the Star Wars experience that they delivered with this land. The crown jewel of the land, and maybe in all of Disneyland currently, is the Rise of the Resistance ride, an amazing immersive experience of a ride that's just incredible to go through, man. The multiple different areas that you go into, the immersive experience, the way these areas look, the trackless ride system is the first and currently only trackless ride system at Disneyland, the multiple different ride systems that have happened within the ride, the animatronics are fantastic, the look, the feel, it's just like incredible to go through. Sadly, the ride is currently kind of a pain in the ass to get onto with its whole virtual line only system, but yeah, it's just a really cool ride if you can get onto it and really complete your experience at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And at number 1, Fantasyland. Now, Fantasyland came with Disneyland's opening in 1955, but its current look didn't happen until 1983, when Disneyland did a big revamp on the whole medieval style tournament look and gave it more of a classic storybook kind of feel. But Fantasyland, as it is right now, I just can't get enough of it. It's a beautiful area. When you step into that through that castle and you're in the very heart of Disneyland, you hear that classic carousel music, the carousel version of classic Disney songs, and you look around and you see all of these dark ride attractions based on classic old school Disney features like Snow White, Peter Pan, and Dumbo. It's just great every time you step into that kind of atmosphere. And even though the area is all mostly comprised of these dark ride attractions, these dark ride attractions still hold up pretty well and still fun for me every time that I go on them. And thankfully there's like at least one thrill ride style attraction in the Matterhorn, which is a great ride and gets a lot of attention from guests every time they visit Disneyland. And area wise, it's the biggest land in all of Disneyland if you include the area that's around It's a Small World. So all the elements about Fantasyland make it my number 1 favorite land in Disneyland Resort, California. So there you have it with my ranking of all 9 lands in Disneyland Resort, California. To sum things up, at number 9 I have Critter Country, 8 Frontierland, 7 Adventureland, 6 Toontown, 5 Main Street, 4 Tomorrowland, 3 New Orleans Square, 2 Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and number 1 Fantasyland. Despite there obviously being an upper tier and lower tier component to this list, all of these lands bring their own special component that contributes to the overall magic of Disneyland Resort, California. So that'll do it for this list and this video. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching.